Ladies and gentlemen, friends and fighters. To anyone out there listening to the sound of my voice right now, I want you to stop what you are doing and pay close attention. Are you tired of waking up every single morning feeling like you are already late? Like there is some invisible clock ticking down, and somehow, you missed the alarm? You look left, you look right, and everyone else seems to be sprinting past you. They have the title, they have the money, they have the picture-perfect setup. And there you sit, wondering why your hands are empty. Stop, look at me, listen to my voice. That clock? That timeline you are driving yourself crazy over? It is a lie. It is a complete and total fabrication. The world sold you a script the day you were born. They told you that by 25 you need this, by 30 you need that, and if you hit 40 without checking their boxes, you are a failure. Who wrote those rules? Who gave them the right to hold a stopwatch to your life? The brutal truth is this: if you keep chasing a timeline that was handed to you by society, you are going to die living a stranger's life. You will spend your best years sweating over a race you were never meant to run. But it stops today, right here, right now. We are going to tear up that script. I am going to walk you through exactly how to strip away the noise, block out the crowd, and claim the only thing that actually belongs to you. We are going to build your road, not for them. Not for the cameras, but for you. So pay attention, because your real work begins right now. Let's get one thing straight before we take a single step forward. You have to accept exactly where you are today, without a single ounce of apology. You must own your starting line. I do not care if your starting line is at rock bottom. I do not care if you are in debt, if you are heartbroken, or if you are 50 years old and having to rebuild from scratch. Own it. Look it dead in the eye and claim it. You cannot change a reality that you refuse to acknowledge. You have to stand in the mud, look down at your boots, and say, "This is where I am." Do you know why most people never make it out of that mud? It is not because they lack talent. It is not because they lack potential or drive. It is because they are trapped in the psychology of the past. They are paralyzed by the ghosts of what should have been. They wake up every single morning and negotiate with yesterday. If only I had started 5 years ago. If only I had been born into better resources. If only I had not made that one massive mistake. That is the trap. It is a slow, silent collapse of your spirit. When you live in the if only, you are bleeding out your energy on a ghost. You are fighting a war that has already ended, and every minute you spend wishing your starting line was different is a minute you steal from your own future. You are giving away your power to a time zone that no longer exists. Think about a pilot stepping into the cockpit of a massive airplane. Imagine that the pilot sits down, revs the engines, and tries to execute a takeoff sequence for a runway in New York, but the plane is physically sitting on the tarmac in Chicago. What happens? They crash. They burn. You cannot fly a plane from a runway you are not actually on. Yet, that is exactly what you do when you lie to yourself about your current situation. You are pulling levers for a life you do not have yet, instead of maneuvering the machine exactly where it sits. You have to fly the plane you are in, from the runway you are currently sitting on. Hear this truth and let it sink into your bones. You cannot build a tower on borrowed ground. If the ground you are standing on is cracked, broken, and ugly, then that is your ground. Build on it anyway. Stop looking over the fence at your neighbor's manicured lawn. Their soil is not your soil. Their harvest is not your harvest. So, here is your execution plan. This is what you must do today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. I call it the reality audit. As soon as this video ends, I want you to take a piece of paper and write down 3 brutal, undeniable truths about your current situation. Write down the exact amount of debt you have. Write down the relationship that is failing. Write down the habit that is destroying your focus. Strip away the ego. Strip away the excuses. Put the ugliness on paper and look at it. Once you write it down, it loses its power to haunt you in the dark. It becomes a simple data point. You are here. This is the baseline. Now, pick up your tools, accept the dirt under your hands, and prepare for the climb. You must take a blade to the cord of comparison and sever it immediately. Cut it, right now. We live in an era where you have front row seats to the perceived perfection of 8 billion strangers. Every single time you pick up your phone, You are invited to judge your lowest moments against someone else's manufactured peak. Why do you do this to yourself? Why do you voluntarily drink poison and expect to feel energized? The second rule of this climb is absolute tunnel vision. Your eyes must remain fixed strictly on your own hands, your own feet, and your own path. Let me explain the psychology of why you are failing here. You are falling into the trap of counterfeit reality. When you constantly scroll, when you constantly watch what the next guy is doing, you are experiencing a silent, brutal erosion of your self-worth. You look at their polished success, their edited photos, their boastful announcements, and you immediately calculate your own deficits. You tell yourself, I am not moving fast enough, I am doing something wrong. But you are comparing your grueling, unedited, behind-the-scenes reality to their heavily edited movie trailer. It is a rigged game, and every single time you play it, you lose. The slow collapse happens day by day. You lose your motivation not because your work is flawed, but because you convinced yourself that someone else is doing it better, faster, and easier. Picture this: you are running a marathon. The gun goes off, your lungs are pumping, your legs are moving. You have your own pace, your own hydration strategy, your own finish line. But instead of looking at the road ahead, you turn your head sideways. You start watching the runner in the lane next to you. You stare at his stride. You wonder what shoes he is wearing. You obsess over how he isn't sweating as much as you are. What happens to you? I will tell you exactly what happens. You trip over your own 2 feet and you smash your face into the pavement. You lose your race because you were too busy spectating someone else's. Stop counting other people's money. Stop counting other people's blessings. Another man's harvest does not make your soil barren. Let me repeat that, so it echoes in your mind the next time you feel that dark envy creeping in. Another man's harvest does not make your soil barren. His success does not subtract from your potential. Her victory does not mean your defeat. The universe does not have a limited supply of achievement, and they did not steal your share. So, how do we fix this? Here is your execution plan. I call it the Digital Fast and Focus Protocol. Today, the very moment this video ends, you are going to go into your phone and you are going to mute or unfollow 3 people who make you feel like you are falling behind. I do not care if they are celebrities, influencers, or people you know personally. If their content triggers your insecurity instead of fueling your fire, cut the feed. Then, for the first hour after you wake up tomorrow morning, your phone stays in another room. No scrolling, no checking the world's scoreboard. You will spend that hour entirely in your own reality, looking at your own goals, and preparing for your own daily fight. Protect your headspace. Defend your focus like your life depends on it. Because it does. You must learn to weaponize your pain, instead of letting it rot you from the inside out. This is the third rule of your climb, and it is the hardest one to swallow. Pain is guaranteed. Heartbreak is guaranteed. Failure, loss, and betrayal, they are all guaranteed stops on this road. But suffering, prolonged, identity-defining suffering, that is a choice. You can either let your trauma become a heavy anchor that drags you to the bottom of the ocean, or you can let it become the fuel that powers your engine. Let me expose the trap that is holding so many of you hostage right now. It is the trap of the victim mentality. And I say this with deep empathy because I know the pain you carry is real. I know it hurts. But self-pity is a narcotic. It is a comforting, highly addictive drug that whispers sweet lies into your ear. It tells you that because you were hurt, you are excused from doing the hard work. It slowly convinces you that your suffering is a valid reason to sit down on the side of the road and stop walking entirely. It feels warm at first, doesn't it? Having an excuse, having someone else to blame for why you are not where you want to be. But that comfort is a slow poison. It robs you of your agency, it hands the pen to your enemies and lets them write the rest of your story. Are you really going to let them do that? Are you going to hand over the rights to your life just because the previous chapter was unfair? Think about the human body when it enters the gym. When you pick up a heavy weight, you are not actually building muscle in that exact second. You are breaking it down. You are causing microscopic tears in the muscle fibers. It hurts, it burns, it leaves you sore and aching for days. But what happens next? The body sends nutrients to those exact tears, repairing them, and making them thicker, stronger, and more resilient than they were before. Without the tearing, there is zero growth. Your character works the exact same way. The tragedies and the brutal setbacks you face are the heavy weights tearing at your spirit. If you avoid the resistance, you remain weak. If you push through the tearing, you rebuild yourself into an unstoppable force. Listen to this truth and carve it into your memory forever. The fire that is meant to burn you to ashes is the exact same fire you use to forge your sword. You get to choose how you use the heat. Let it consume you, or let it temper you into steel. Here is your execution plan to take that control back today. I call it the pain to power shift. Grab that same piece of paper from your reality audit. I want you to write down the single most painful thing that has happened to you this past year. Write down the failure, the rejection, or the massive loss that nearly broke you. Then, draw a hard, thick line down the middle of the page. On the other side, you are going to write down exactly what that pain taught you. Did it teach you who your real friends actually are? Did it show you a massive blind spot in your discipline? Did it force you to become independent? Find the lesson, extract it, and leave the emotional baggage on the page. Take the lesson as your weapon, and keep walking. You must take society's scorecard, rip it into 1,000 pieces, and burn it to ash. This is the fourth rule of your climb, and it requires absolute rebellion. You have to stop letting other people define what a victory looks like in your life. Who told you that success means a corner office by 30? Who told you that winning means a specific number in your bank account, a specific type of car in your driveway, or a specific title next to your name? You have been handed a rubric graded by strangers, and you are breaking your back trying to score a perfect 100. Stop. Let me break down the psychology of why you are so exhausted right now. You are trapped in the endless cycle of chasing milestones you do not even genuinely want, simply because the world applauds them. You are confusing the sound of clapping with the feeling of fulfillment. The trap is silent, and it is deadly. You sacrifice your sleep, your peace of mind, and your true passions to achieve a goal that society deemed prestigious. And what is the ultimate tragedy? The ultimate tragedy is not failing to reach the top of the mountain. The ultimate tragedy is sacrificing everything to reach the top, only to look around and realize you climbed the completely wrong mountain. You arrive at the destination, you grab the trophy, and you feel absolutely nothing, empty, hollow, because the goal was never yours to begin with. Imagine a man who spends his entire life building a ladder. He sands the wood, he hammers the nails, he bleeds over every single rung. He spends 20 years climbing this massive ladder, ignoring his health, ignoring his family, ignoring his soul, just to get to the very top. He finally pulls himself over the last rung, breathless and exhausted, only to realize his ladder is leaning against the absolutely wrong wall. All that effort, all that pain, all that time, wasted. Why? Because he never stopped to ask himself if he even wanted what was on the roof. He just saw everyone else climbing, so he started climbing too. Listen to me. And do not forget this. Do not let a crowd of blind men tell you what success looks like. They cannot see your vision. They cannot feel your pulse. They do not know what makes your blood run hot, or what brings you absolute peace when the room goes quiet. Their definition of winning is completely irrelevant to your mission. So here is your execution plan for today. I call it the True North metric. I want you to define exactly one personal standard of success that requires zero external validation, not a single drop. What is a goal that, if you achieved it quietly in the dark with no one watching, would make you deeply proud of yourself? Is it getting your physical health back? Is it mastering a craft just for the sheer love of it? Is it being entirely out of debt so you can finally sleep through the night without a panic attack? Define it. Write it down right now. From this moment forward, that is your true compass. Let the rest of the world chase their empty trophies. You are going to secure your own peace. You must find the absolute courage to walk alone. And you must embrace the isolation of your personal climb. This is the fifth rule, and it is where most people turn around and go back to the bottom. We are terrified of being by ourselves. We are terrified of being misunderstood. So what do? we start dragging people along with us who have no business being on our road. But hear me clearly, your elevation will require separation. You cannot take everyone with you to the next level. Let me explain the trap that is killing your potential right now. It is the trap of dilution. You have massive goals. You have a fire in your gut to build something incredible, to completely change your life, and to break the cycles of failure in your bloodline. But when you look around your current circle, nobody else is doing that. They are comfortable complaining. They are comfortable staying exactly where they are. So, what happens? Instead of walking away, you shrink yourself. You water down your ambition. You stop talking about your massive plans because you see the eye rolls and hear the sarcastic jokes. You dim your own light so you do not blind the people around you. That is a psychological death. You are voluntarily choosing to starve your own potential just to keep your friends comfortable. Why? Why would you sacrifice your future to subsidize their complacency? Think about the eagle. The eagle is the only bird that will fly directly into a storm, using the violent winds to push itself higher above the clouds. And when an eagle flies at 10,000 feet, do you know what you will never see flying next to it? Pigeons, crows, sparrows. You will only ever see another eagle. Why? Because the smaller birds physically cannot breathe at that altitude. The air is too thin for their lungs. Your ambition is exactly like that altitude. The higher you climb, the thinner the air gets for the people who refuse to grow. They will gasp, they will panic, and they will try to pull you back down to the ground where they can breathe easily. You cannot let them pull you down. Let this truth ring loudly in your ears the next time you feel lonely on a Friday night while everyone else is out wasting their time. If they do not understand your direction, they have no business walking by your side. You do not owe anyone an apology for outgrowing the room. You do not owe anyone a discount on your greatness. Here is your execution plan. I call it the circle audit. Tonight, I want you to sit down in a quiet room and look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Be brutally honest with yourself. Do these people push you forward, or do they pull you backward? Do they speak life into your plans, or do they mock your discipline? Identify the individuals who constantly drain your momentum. You know exactly who they are. Their name just flashed in your mind right now. Tomorrow, you schedule immediate boundaries. You stop answering the late-night gossip calls. You decline the invitations to waste hours doing absolutely nothing. You protect your energy with absolute ruthlessness. Walking alone is painful for a season, but living a life of regret is painful forever. Choose your pain. You must completely detach yourself from the timeline and submit to the brutal discipline of the long game. This is the 6th rule of your climb, and it requires a level of patience that most of the modern world simply does not possess. We are living in a microwave society. Everyone wants 10 years of results from 10 days of effort. But true power, true unshakable strength, is built quietly, slowly, and methodically in the dark. Let me expose the trap that is constantly destroying your momentum. It is the addiction to instant gratification. You want the dopamine hit of immediate success. You start a new project, you attempt to learn a difficult skill, or you finally start training your physical body. For the first 2 weeks, you are fired up, but then week 3 hits. The applause stops. The scale does not move. The bank account looks exactly the same. And what happens? You panic. You tell yourself, this is not working. You fold your cards and you quit. You are quitting 3 feet from gold because the progress is invisible to the naked eye. You are demanding a harvest in the exact same season you planted the seed, and when reality refuses to bend to your impatience, you walk away. That is not just failure, that is active self-sabotage. Consider the Chinese bamboo tree. When you plant the seed of the bamboo, you have to water it, fertilize it, and protect the soil for 5 entire years before a single green shoot breaks the surface of the dirt. 5 years of staring at an empty patch of ground. 5 years of blind faith. But what is actually happening underneath? The tree is building a massive, complex root system capable of supporting what comes next. Because in the 5th year, once it finally breaks the surface, that bamboo tree will explode 90 feet into the air in just 6 weeks, 90 feet. Now, ask yourself, did the tree grow in 6 weeks, or did it grow in 5 years? If the farmer had stopped watering the dirt on year 4 because he lacked patience, the entire root system would have died in the ground. You are dying in the ground because you refuse to keep watering the dirt when you cannot immediately see the leaves. Listen to this truth and let it kill your impatience forever. Time will pass anyway. The only question is who you will be when it does. 5 years from today is going to arrive whether you put in the grueling work or whether you sit on the couch and complain about how hard the climb is. The clock will not stop for your feelings. The time is going to vanish regardless. What will you have to show for it when the alarm rings? Here is your execution plan to conquer this mental weakness. I call it the decade frame. The crushing anxiety you feel right now comes from living in a 24-hour window. You are obsessing over the bad Tuesday you just had. You are letting one rough week dictate your entire identity. Stop. Tonight, you are going to write down a massive, 10-year projection. Where will your health be in exactly 1 decade? Where will your discipline be? What will your character look like? Write it in ink. When you stretch your vision out across 10 full years, a bad Tuesday suddenly means absolutely nothing. A failed month becomes a tiny footnote. You stop reacting to the micro failures and start executing the macro mission. Take a deep breath, grip your tools, and settle in for the long haul. You must look in the mirror and accept the final, undeniable rule of this entire climb. No one is coming to save you. Look around. There is no cavalry riding over the hill. There is no secret benefactor waiting to hand you $1 million. There is no perfect mentor who is going to swoop in, grab you by the hand, and drag you across the finish line. You are on your own. And the minute you fully accept that isolation, you stop being a victim and you become a dangerous, unstoppable force. Let me expose the final trap, the deadliest one of them all. It is the trap of tomorrow. You are waiting. You are waiting for the perfect moment. You are waiting for the economy to get better. You are waiting for your kids to grow up. You are waiting until you feel motivated. Let me tell you something about motivation. It is a fickle, unreliable emotion that will abandon you the second things get genuinely hard. The insidious lie you keep feeding yourself is that tomorrow will somehow be easier than today. You tell yourself, I will make the hard phone call tomorrow, I will start the discipline tomorrow, but tomorrow is a myth. Tomorrow is the graveyard where human potential goes to rot. By pushing the work to tomorrow, you are outsourcing your success to a version of yourself that simply does not exist. Imagine the captain of a massive ship out in the middle of a brutal storm. The hull has been violently breached. Freezing water is rushing into the lower decks. The ship is actively sinking. Now, imagine that captain, instead of grabbing a bucket to bail the water, instead of running down into the dark to seal the breach, just stands on the top deck with his binoculars. He stares at the horizon, hoping a rescue boat will magically appear to do the heavy lifting. What happens? He drowns. His crew drowns. The ship goes down to the bottom of the ocean. Why? Because he outsourced his survival. He chose to look for a savior instead of using his own 2 hands to fight the water. Listen to this truth and let it shatter every remaining excuse you hold on to. Your life is your fault. The trauma you endured may not be your fault. The betrayal you suffered may not be your fault. But the healing is your absolute responsibility. The rebuilding is your absolute responsibility. You cannot demand that the world fix what it broke. The world does not care. You have to fix it yourself. Here is your final execution plan. I call it the zero excuses contract. Right now, there is a massive, uncomfortable action you have been putting off for months. You know exactly what it is. It is the hard conversation you need to have. It is the application you are terrified to submit. It is the gym bag gathering dust in your corner. Today, before the sun goes down, you are going to execute that action. Not tomorrow morning. Today, you are going to force yourself into the friction. You are going to stop negotiating with your weakness, pick up the bucket, and start saving your own ship. When you lock these 7 rules into your mind, you stop being a passenger in your own life. You step behind the wheel. Think about the new version of you that is waiting on the other side of this effort. A version of you that owns their starting line without shame. A version of you that is completely deaf to the noise of the crowd. A version of you that weaponizes pain, ignores society's empty scorecards, and has the absolute spine to walk alone in the dark. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is a mathematical certainty. provided you put in the grueling reps required to build it. Understand that this power compounds. The momentum builds slowly at first, but once the boulder starts rolling down the mountain, absolutely nothing can stand in its way. Every time you choose discipline over comfort, you add a layer of armor to your mind. Every time you execute a plan instead of making an excuse, you forge another link of steel in your character. The road ahead is brutal. The climb will demand everything you have in your chest, but it is your road, it is your climb, and the view from the top belongs entirely to you. So, I am leaving you with one final command. Put the phone down, close the laptop, stand up. Stop talking about what you are going to do, and start executing. Build your life. Claim your power. Start today, not tomorrow.